Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
It's been some time since National Interest spoke about Pakistan, and that's for the simple reason that Pakistan has not been on our radar screen, our newsroom's radar screen. Also because it's China that is giving us, as in India, more pain than Pakistan at the moment. But now we have an opportunity or the temptation to look at Pakistan in this week's National Interest, and the reason is the death of a cleric in Pakistan, the death of a cleric that not many people know about in India. In fact, in India, if you generally ask people, they'll say, but how is one cleric in Pakistan different from the other? Then you say it's a cleric with a street power. Which cleric does not have street power in Pakistan? It's a cleric who promotes violence and justifies violence, also calls for jihad on India, etc., etc. But isn't every cleric in Pakistan like that? So first of all, Pakistan has clerics and clerics and clerics. So they have a cleric for every season and every moment and every reason. And most of these clerics are controlled, managed, manipulated by the powers that be. And these clerics are then given a kind of an impression or they are given an image that they command a lot of street power. So what they do is collect 10, 15, 20,000 people and block access, say to Islamabad or to any of the major city in Pakistan. When that happens, you get a lot of TV, cameras, etc., etc. So this becomes what our columnist Hussain Haqqani calls a photogenic crowd or a telegenic crowd. So this plays on TV all the time as if lakhs of people have come in or millions of people have come in. So in this business, some clerics in Pakistan have gained prominence at various points of time. They've been used by the army and the ISI. So the champion in that field at this moment was a 54-year-old cleric called Khadim Hussain Rizvi, who died this Thursday. All of a sudden without any warning. Nobody knew he was sick. Thursday night, some stories came out of Lahore that there were rumors that he had passed away. Then, as happens with these people, within an hour there was another bunch of stories saying, his followers are saying that he's miraculously come back alive, which was also believed for a moment for the simple reason that nobody knew he was sick. And just 3 days back, he was standing on top of his stage in Islamabad, which he was holding to ransom with his crowd, and giving out the most angry, violent, provocative and abusive speeches. So 3 days back, he was giving those spirited, angry speeches without losing a breath, and now suddenly to think that he died, and probably that he died of COVID. So the hospital where his body was brought did not state the cause of his death. In fact, the hospital death certificate says that this is not meant to state the cause of death. Holy man, no post-mortem. Probably died of COVID. But as he died, as you would expect, he was only 54, in very good health. Look at his pictures, look at his face, it glows. He has a very well kept, very well manicured beard. So it doesn't look like somebody who will just pop off like that, and he obviously does not look like he had a heart attack. So conspiracy theories started that maybe because he was until now he was useful to the establishment, now he had become a nuisance, he's gone out of control, which is the story of Pakistan, which is the story of any establishment that rears people like these monsters, because at some point of time they go out of your control and they turn on you. So he was given what might be called an expedient demise. Now, I'm not buying into that conspiracy theory, nor I'm suggesting that. What I'm saying is that this is one more story coming out of Pakistan, which tells us a great deal which gives us an insight into that country's evolving politics, power structure, and overall socio-politico, military, religious dynamic, which is very important for us in India as well. Now, who was this 54-year-old? Khadim Hussain Rizvi, called Allama Khadim Hussain Rizvi. Allama is like a great scholar on Islam, somebody who really knows about the faith, who's read the scriptures, interpretations, who can interpret the scriptures. For example, the poet Iqbal, who's considered among the founders of the idea of Pakistan, he's called Allama Iqbal. So his followers called him also Allama. So Allama Khadim Hussain Rizvi. Khadim Hussain Rizvi was born on 22nd May 1966, but that's physical birth. His political birth or his street power birth took place after 4th of January 2011. Why is 4th of January 2011 so important, and why did that bring this completely obscure Maulvi until then? He was an obscure Maulvi at the Data Darbar Shrine, the famous Data Darbar Shrine. In fact, many people from India, when they're in Lahore, they go there, and you hear a lot of Sufi music, Qawwali music, referring to Data Ka Darbar. So he was one of the clerics there at Data Darbar. Complete nobody. 4th of January 2011, a man called Salman Taseer, who was then the governor of Punjab in Pakistan, Pakistani Punjab, the 26th governor of Punjab, and as it also happens, the father of author Atish Taseer, who we know very well. Atish is a child from Salman and Tableen Singh, the Indian columnist. So, and he was a friend of mine also, and I'd known him for many, many years. So Salman Taseer was assassinated on 4th of January 2011. Why was he assassinated? Because you go behind that, there is the story of a woman called Asia Bibi. Asia Bibi was a Christian woman who her neighbors reported there was a neighborhood brawl or argument, and somebody said that she said something insulting about or inappropriate about the Holy Prophet. On the basis of that, she was arrested and charged with blasphemy. Blasphemy under the Pakistani law carries a death sentence. So she was sentenced to death, and she was a blasphemer and a Christian. And there's a little subtext there also, which unless you know Pakistan very well, you tend to miss. A lot of the native Christians of Pakistan are converts from the lowest levels of what we will call the Dalit hierarchy, Dalit caste hierarchy in India. These are scavengers who stayed back in Pakistan after the partition, thinking, look, I am treated like this here, I am doing this job there. In this country, I will do the same thing in India, so I might as well carry on. And then for convenience, many of them converted to Christianity because Hinduism was more troublesome. And in Pakistan's economy, that was also useful because in Pakistan, while liquor is banned for all Muslims, there is no such restriction for non-Muslims. So Christians could not only drink liquor, but they could also trade in liquor. So this was also lucrative, you know what I mean. Anyway, so come to bring it back on track. Now, Asia Bibi was a case that the global media was talking about. And Salman Taseer, he was a politician of Pakistan People's Party, and he had his strong views, but he was essentially a modern mind. He was a modern mind who resented this idea of a blasphemy law sentencing people to death, and he sympathized with this woman. He met her, which was seen as an offense. He met her. He also asked for the withdrawal of the blasphemy law. When that happened, nobody realized that he had signed his death warrant. So 4th of January 2011, he was assassinated in Islamabad, the reigning governor of Punjab state of Pakistan. Punjab is 60% of Pakistan. He was assassinated by a man called Mumtaz Qadri, who was one of the constables in charge of his own security. He was a member of his own security details. Just like Indira Gandhi was killed by her own security man, he was killed by his own security man. As Mumtaz Qadri did that, the fundamentalist groups in Pakistan immediately hailed him as a great Ghazi, a holy warrior, as somebody who had settled the score for Islam. Now, when that happened, there was a groundswell available among the devout in Pakistan, which was friendly to Mumtaz Qadri, which saw him as a hero, and which saw Salman Taseer as a renegade. It was at that time that Maulana Khadim Hussain Rizvi rose. He rose and he first wrote a fatwa saying that no mosque will hold a prayer and no Maulvi will hold a prayer for Salman Taseer's funeral. And then he started carrying out public processions, demonstrations, protests, wanting Mumtaz Qadri to be released, saying that he had only carried out a holy job for the deen, that is the faith. What business did any court, any of human beings have to punish him? So this went on for some time. In the process, he built up quite a bit of street power because this became a kind of a big Islamic cause in Pakistan. Now, Pakistan's government refused to give in. Ultimately, Mumtaz Qadri was hanged. So when Mumtaz Qadri was hanged, once again the lead in protests against his hanging was taken by the same Maulana, that is, who had by now become Allama or was on his way to being proclaimed as Allama, that is Khadim Hussain Rizvi. Now, one of the co-founders, by this time he had founded his own party called TLP, Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. Now, Tehreek-e-Labbaik, generally you will see Khalid Hussain Rizvi, Tehreek-e-Labbaik. Tehreek-e-Labbaik means, rough translation, I am here movement. Now, this is I am here is a line that I believe is drawn from the Islamic prayer. And the exact name of his original organization is Tehreek-e-Labbaik Ya Rasool Allah, which means movement of here I am, saying the movement that says here I am, my prophet, my holy prophet of God. So TLYRA, Tehreek-e-Labbaik Ya Rasool Allah. That was the organization he formed, which later morphed into a political party called TLP, that is Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. So one of his co-founders there was a man called Muhammad Afzal Qadri. So when Mumtaz Qadri was hanged, Muhammad Afzal Qadri actually made a statement that all three Supreme Court judges who had upheld that sentence, all of them deserved to be killed right away. And he said that even if a court would not order their hanging or whatever, then it can be easily done by either their security guards or their drivers or their cooks. Simple. So this was once again telling people that you can go and kill. So any Muslim can go and kill anybody for blasphemy. So it was in this process that this man rose. And since then, he grew to be quite, if I may use that word, quite a monster in Pakistani politics. Because 2017, and you can see that the establishment now, the army establishment, Army ISI, and by this time Imran Khan was their boy, they were also using him to undermine the Nawaz Sharif government. So 2017 October, if you again go and Google and check on Pakistan, 2017 October in Pakistan, there was another big dharna led by Qazi Khadim Hussain Rizvi at the same intersection in Islamabad, because this intersection controls a lot of traffic going into Islamabad. He can choke Islamabad. So he got in there, and what did he want? He wanted the resignation of the Law Minister Justice Zahid Hamid, and he wanted what he saw as an amendment to the document that a candidate has to sign while filing his nomination for elections in Pakistan to be re-amended, because he said that a crucial clause there had got amended. Now this is a bit complicated and I'm trying to simplify it to the extent I can because I'm no scholar in Islamic theology. But basically there is the concept called Khatme Nabuwat. Khatme Nabuwat means Nabuwat comes from Nabi, the Holy Prophet, that a Muslim has to accept that Prophet Muhammad was the last prophet, that there was no successor, there was nothing, nobody can claim anything, nobody can come up with any fresh teachings, etc., etc., etc. Now, a Muslim, to prove that he or she is a Pakka Muslim, has to take an oath in the Pakistani system while filing his or her nomination for an election. That is the oath on Khatme Nabuwat. An oath saying that I take an oath that I believe that Prophet Muhammad was the last and I don't respect or follow anybody after that. Now, if you understand a little bit more, this is essentially to keep Ahmadiyas out of the power structure in Pakistan, because Ahmadiyas under the Pakistani laws that came up in the 70s are no longer considered Muslims. They are considered apostates. That's another complicated story and we'll talk about it at some other time. But the persecution of the Ahmadiyas, who've given Pakistan some of its greatest stars, the first Nobel laureate in science, one of Pakistan's most successful generals in a war with India, who was in fact withdrawn midway through his campaign because why would an Ahmadiyya be given such a glory, and many others. And you meet many talented Pakistanis around the world who are Ahmadiyyas. Dr. Fahim Yunus, who we all follow on Twitter for the wisdom he dispenses on coronavirus, is an Ahmadiyya. But this was to keep Ahmadiyyas out because it's a tough oath for them to take, as I understand. Now, what had happened was that somehow in the new nomination forms that had been printed, that description, oath, had changed into declaration. The government said, it was Nawaz Sharif's government, the government said it's a clerical error or a typing error or whatever. A clerk did not understand the difference between an oath and a declaration. But this was made into a very big deal, that this is like massive blasphemy, that government of Pakistan is complicit in this, and this is an insult to the Prophet, and this is a challenge to the idea, to the concept of Khatme Nabuwat. So he launched this dharna, and finally, because the elements in the country were on his side, in the establishment, he won. He won, declaring a complete victory there, which means he got the law minister out, he got that wording amended, he beat up lots of policemen, he destroyed a lot of property, and he came back without any damage to himself, without losing any lives of his own people. So in fact, if I read an article from Zagam Khan, who's a Pakistani scholar in the news, Pakistan, he says, look, he is an absolute follower of Sun Tzu because he laid siege, he created a warlike situation, he laid siege on Islamabad, many other important cities of Pakistan, but retreated without losing anything, without fighting a war, and declared victory because he won a victory. And that then gave the impression to everybody that this guy is very powerful, don't mess with him. And you saw his power again when Imran Khan formed his government. Among his own advisors, he set up an economic advisory council where he also included or invited Professor Atif Mia. Professor Atif Mia is among probably Pakistan's most eminent economist with a global reputation. Really a well-known person and a brilliant economist. Just so happens that he's an Ahmadi. So Imran Khan included him in his economic advisory council, and once again our Allama Khadim Hussain Rizvi went to war, and he made so much noise that Imran Khan had to backtrack. Atif Mia was told to leave this council. He left in protest two other members of the council left, and so Pakistan's new prime minister was left without an economic advisory council. But the fact is that although he was a darling of the army, he did not have the courage to, either the courage or the stature to call him out, because after all, he was also working on the same kind of politics. You remember Imran Khan's speech at the UN, where he said again and again that, everything else is right, but whenever somebody says something which is not good about our holy prophet, we love him dearly, and then we get very angry. Now, if you translate that into simple Urdu, what it means is that once we get angry, then we can do whatever, everything is justified. So how could Imran Khan then fight with the Allama? So he had his way, Atif Mian was removed, and then he kept on doing his other stuff, and latest now, he again laid siege on Islamabad. And what did he want? He wanted Pakistan to not just break its diplomatic relations with France, now send the French ambassador away, shut down their embassy, but also pass a resolution in Pakistan National Assembly that Pakistan will not have diplomatic relations with France until France apologized, etc., for the cartoons and made amends. And if you see those speeches, I've been watching those speeches at night on video, and they are also spoken in this delightful Potwar Punjabi. Potwar in Pakistan is this sort of region between Jhelum River and Indus River, and this is the catchment area of Pakistani army. It has a very distinctive kind of Punjabi. So he speaks a lot more in that Punjabi than in Urdu. And he basically said he wanted Macron's head. He wanted Macron beheaded. He declared this Chechenian boy who had killed this French teacher to be a Ghazi, to be a holy fighter. He declared everybody else who had acted accordingly to be a holy fighter or a Ghazi. And there is a background. 28th of September this year, an 18-year-old Pakistani was caught outside the office of Charlie Hebdo, the magazine which carried these cartoons originally in Paris, and he was caught there carrying a butcher's knife because the police caught him, French police, and then later they caught 7 others, saying that they had come in with the intention of carrying out an execution. So that one turned out to be his follower. So he was there in all these speeches justifying the killings of all these people for what he called as blasphemy. He dispersed finally. Once again, nobody could disperse him. Nobody could use any force on him. He dispersed, issuing a press release saying that government had accepted all his demands and he had signed an agreement with the government. We didn't see an agreement. We only saw his press release, which is in Urdu, but I've seen translations that said that Parliament will pass such a resolution. They will send the French ambassador away. They will shut down the French embassy, and they will not post a fresh Pakistani ambassador to France. That posting has been pending. It so happens that within 3 days after that, this man died apparently of COVID, probably of COVID, because now there are stories coming out of Pakistan that he was short of breath often and he was feverish, but it's very complicated because a lot of these holy people don't believe in doctors. A lot of these holy people think that vaccines are a curse from some evil force up there. So I don't know what exactly happened, but the fact is that he has now died, and that has brought our attention back to this phenomenon in Pakistan, one of this rising power of the clergymen who speak the extreme language and claim to be the guardians of global Islam. Second, people who ride this pan-Islamic anger of the already angry faithful, because one description I read in Zagam Khan's article is that just as Imran Khan rides the resentment of the Muslim middle class in Pakistan, people like him, the Labbaik leader, they ride the resentment of the poor and unemployed in Pakistan. And there are many others like that. So if one goes away, other will come in. Frankly, it's also possible that within his organization, someone else will come in. Now, I will end this on a final note of irony. And that note of irony is, there are Maulanas and Maulanas and Maulanas. It's not as if there are Maulanas who don't do good things. And religion can be used for a good cause. Religion can be used for a bad cause. Religion can be used selfishly. Religion can be used in a sacrificial way, in a self-sacrificing way. So one of those really brilliant Maulanas in Pakistan is somebody I used to know well, and I wrote a long feature on him in India Today magazine, and I'll share a link with you of that article. Maulana Abdul Sattar Edhi. Now, if you see any ambulances in Pakistan, any unfortunate bombing, attack, calamity, you will find most of the ambulances read Edhi, E-D-H-I. Now, Abdul Sattar Edhi was a Maulana of Gujarati extraction who lived in Karachi but built this huge NGO and charitable empire of ambulances, orphanages, shelters for destitute women, etc. He was always attacked by Allama, quote unquote, Allama Khadim Hussain Rizvi as being an agent of the devil. And what is he doing? He's given refuge to illegitimate children. The question is, why should Pakistan have illegitimate children? Why should an Islamic society, this is Allama Rizvi speaking, not I. Why should an Islamic society have illegitimate children? By running these orphanages, he is ruining Islam and he is encouraging the idea of producing illegitimate children. And he attacked him all the time, and there are many videos of him attacking him. It so happened that when he died and when he was taken to hospital, guess which ambulance was driving him around? It was an Edhi ambulance. So I would say divine forces also have a way of getting even with you in the course of time.